Hi all, this is Systemshark, bringing to another audio commentary for WCReplays.com. This audio commentary is copyrighted 2007 WCReplays.com. This is going to be the audio commentary for the WC Replays birthday raffle. The prize winner for that, for me, was Tazian. I guess he goes by Taz for short, so we had a little bit of problems with the replay due to the patch changes, and actually I don't think I've done an audio commentary since the new patch, so this will be the first one after the new patch. While I'm going ahead and talking a little bit more about the game and about the reasoning behind all this kind of craziness I'm talking about, go ahead and get the replay synced up at the 1 minute mark at 1x speed. We're going to go ahead and get this unpaused in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, unpause. Alright, we're unpaused here. First thing I want you guys to take note is that this is Echo Isles. This is one of the smallest maps that's in a very common map in tournament and just ladder play. So it's probably one of the smaller maps that you're going to be playing. Small maps typically mean a lot of action-packed fights going on. And this is going to be true in this case as well. This is Orc vs. Undead, and the Orc player was Kiss My Ass 2007, and he opted as random, which is what he normally plays, and he got Orc randomly. So it's kind of give you a little insight as to how he plays, is that he's a random player. So the experience that he comes from being random is that he's played other races, so he's kind of got a little insight as to all the races and their kind of basic cookie-cutter strategies. And that's actually kind of what we're going to see here. We're going to see a very common starting hero for the Orc player with his Farseer, and same on the Undead side, we're going to see the Death Knight with a slower Death Knight build opting for Fiends. So when you go to the Death Knight build, as every Undead player and their mother knows, is you the Crypt Fiend build, actually, you don't get your hero till a little bit later, so you kind of delay your hero in exchange for getting your Fiends out a little bit quicker too. Same very common build orders here, or actually base layout by these players as well, so nothing too special to talk about base design. And actually in this game it's not going to come into effect that much until very, very late in the game. The base design is going to come into effect. So the Orc player has sent out a peon to scout out the Undead player, mainly just to kind of see where he's at. He doesn't really, he kind of is assuming probably Death Knight, but he just wanted to see if he was going to be up against ghouls or fiends. It's also just a good idea to see kind of where your opponent is at. Maybe he went AFK for some reason and hasn't had any buildings or something like that. So it's definitely good to scout out with that first peon, and he's actually following that up by bringing his Farseer and Grunalongs to try to do a little bit of harassment. A goal in this is actually to try to kill off a few Acolytes early on, but he kind of opts to not do that, because the biggest thing when you're bringing your Farseer out to try to harass the Undead player is you don't want to lose your Wolves, and you definitely don't want to lose your hero or Grunts or anything like that. But you notice that this Undead player is not afraid to use Coil offensively when the situation merits it, and especially to get the last hit on some of these Wolves. This Orc player is going to lose a lot of Wolves to this Undead player, and although he doesn't actually get gold for killing the Wolves, he is getting the increased experience on his Death Knight. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. The Orc player is keeping the Undead player from creeping early on, but he's giving him a lot of experience, as we're going to soon see, by allowing Wolves to go down easily. So this Undead player has got an early shop, so he can buy Rods of Necromancy, and kind of creeping similarly to how an Orc player would creep with Wolves. And actually, this Undead player uses the Skeletons similarly how a lot of Orc players would use their Wolves as far as scouting is concerned. So he's trying to tank a little bit with his Skeletons, but now his Death Knight's actually taking the brunt of a lot of the damage here from these Trolls. He's still going to send out his Skeletons to scout a little bit in a little while here, but you'll notice the first thing he immediately targets is those Wolves with his Fiends. And he's allowing his Fiends to take a lot of hit from the Grunts and Wolves and the Farseer, because he's, instead of using Coil offensively now, he's opting to use it defensively. So Orc player has done a really good job pretty much halting that the creeping in his steps there and taking up both those Skeletons, so he actually didn't get to use those for scouting purposes. So you notice that the Undead player is not really opting to do any damage to any of those Grunts or the Farseer himself, but really just he's salivating at killing all these Spirit Wolves. So he's trying not to take so much damage with his Fiends, so he doesn't have to use them, the Coils, offensively. He's forcing to use them defensively. So notice now, the Undead player, only having crept 2 creeps, has gotten level 2 off of just killing Wolves. So definitely not looking too good now for this Orc player, as far as trying to pick off or denying his opponent the experience. The Death Knight has taken a lot of damage now, and this is really going to prevent him from venturing out too far from his base and actually tanking with his Death Knight, because now he's just got to rely on regenning on Blight to kind of heal him from there. He is level 2, he's gone for Coil and Unholy Warrior, which is the very common thing that a lot of Undead players do. I do see a lot of Undead players opting at level 4 for Death Pact instead of the second level of Unholy Aura, but I think that's just a player preference thing. So the idea here as the Orc player is you want to really keep your opponent busy and not let him get too far from his base. And the Undead player on the reverse side of that wants to be able to get some levels on his opponent, or on his opponent, wants to outlevel his opponent's hero. So notice here that the Orc player has searched that mercenary camp to the south of the Undead player's base, hoping to catch him creeping there. It would have been a really great creepjack. But in not finding them there, he realizes that it's kind of a bad time for him, and he's now setting up his tier 2 buildings. He's expecting the Undead player to come and try to take out these bestiaries and burrows and everything that's under construction right now. But the Undead player instead was actually just finishing off those low-level creeps to the north of his base instead. So playing a little bit defensively, this Orc player had run back and just kind of doing preemptive things to try to prevent a lot of losses on his end as far as losing his buildings and things like that. You notice that he's actually pulling these creeps out, the Orc player right now, and this is a defensive move. He doesn't necessarily need to pull them out to finish off this creep camp, but it's kind of a better way to do it in case you get creepjacked. You're in a better position to kind of back off and not lose so many units. So he's able to, if you hold all these tanking a little bit with his grunts, and he's okay doing that right now because he's got really good position. Had he left the creeps where they were at, he would have been in bad position, being kind of locked in by the trees, and the Undead could have locked him in. He's also noticing that the creeps have to run back and forth just due to pathing, so they're kind of getting, they're not getting a lot of hits on his units, and he's getting kind of free hits on them. So the Undead player just finished creeping out his gold mine. He isn't going to expand there. And most Undead players you will find will not expand, instead opting for a very fast tech, trying to get to Black Citadel as fast as possible and go for destroyers. This is the cookie cutter way to play Undead, is to get these destroyers out as soon as possible. I'm going to make a point about going the Lich second here and the skill choices in a second, or in a little while, but for now let's just leave that be. He just got his Lich out. He's buying the Rod of Necromancy. As soon as he hits tier 3, he is going to get that Orb of Corruption on his Lich. Definitely a good investment, and again, cookie cutter. That's what most Undead players will do. So as a random player, this now Orc player, this Kiss My Ass 2007, kind of knows, because he's played Undead too, so he can kind of have some preemptive things going on here. He can kind of decide, hey, well, if I was Undead, this is what I would do. So he kind of puts himself in the other player's shoes, and that's a big skill in Warcraft 3 that a lot of people I think overlook. Is they just kind of play their game and they're constantly surprised by what their opponent's doing. So if you're not scouting, if you don't actually have a scout on your opponent and know where they're at, I mean, kind of put yourself in their shoes. Hey, I wasn't able to find my opponent here. If I was him, I would be over here, or I'd be attacking my base. And then you can kind of make decisions based on that. And it kind of goes into that whole thing, countering the counter. You know, you kind of have to preemptively know what your opponent's doing. And this Orc player is actually kind of doing that. He knows that in preparation for destroyers that are the imminent destroyers that he's familiar with. He's actually got his dual bestiary up now, and he's going to make the switch to wyverns in a little bit. And those wyverns are going to do piercing damage to the light armor of the destroyers. And wyverns, in addition to bat riders, are actually really, really good counter to destroyers. And the Undead counter to that is actually to get the armor upgrades on those destroyers. So it takes multiple bats to suicide themselves on the destroyers to kill them, and the wyverns are really just there for the damage output there. So you notice he's still making some raiders out there trying to get that control. He hasn't actually got a chance to use Ensnare, and he hasn't got a chance to use the Hex on his Shadowhunter. His Shadowhunter is almost level 2 now, and there's a really interesting fight that's coming out here, and then I'm going to actually pause the game here, probably around 9 minutes, and I'll let you know when to pause it here. So just get ready to pause in a little bit here. So Ensnare is going to go off instantly on these fiends. We're going to pause now in 5 seconds. We're going to pause at 9:20, so get ready to pause right at the 9:20 mark. Paused at 9:20. So the situation now we're looking at is this Undead player is in a bad position. He's now having to face off against the Shadowhunter with Hex and Raiders with Ensnare. This is almost always a really bad time for the Undead player because he doesn't necessarily have his tier 3 tech. He's vulnerable. The Orc player has got his tier 2 tech units out and researched and ready to go. If you take a look at army counts here, the Orc player actually has a little bit of an advantage here at the 50 food mark and their tech units compared to just Fiends at 47. For the Undead player. So the Undead player rightly makes the move to Town Portal out. But what he should have done beforehand was to put a coil on that Crypt Fiend that was getting focus fired all by those Raiders and Grunts and the 2 heroes on the bottom there. He had plenty of time to do it. He could have, and it was probably around red little over orange HP probably before he started the TP. So he actually is going to lose his Crypt Fiend here on the bottom, mostly due to the fact that he wasn't able to coil it. Starting that TP